guys, this is Haley, and today I'm going to be doing a video about panic attacks and anxiety attacks. So before I get started, I do have some paper here that I will be looking at. It's about like 4 pages long. It's just something that I wrote so that I wouldn't forget any information that I wanted to include inside this video. So I have a lot of information to cover, so let's get started. So maybe you clicked on this video because of the title of it, or maybe you just clicked on it because it was in your subscription feed. But if you clicked on it because of the title and you are really honestly wondering if you have just had a panic attack or an anxiety attack, I am going to be covering a lot of that information inside this video. But as a disclaimer, I do want to say, if you are in doubt of some sort of serious illness like a heart attack or heart problems or anything like that, please go to the ER immediately. Don't use this video as like a guide on whether to go to the hospital or not. I don't want to be like responsible for anything like that. But I do want to say that panic attack symptoms do imitate heart attack symptoms sometimes. There's a couple little symptoms that some people think they're having a heart attack when in reality they're just having a panic attack. But if you're in doubt and don't know, it might be better just to go to the hospital and have them tell you, because I don't want to be reliable for anyone having serious health problems or anything. But maybe you clicked on this video because you were feeling an intense feeling of anxiety, overwhelming thoughts, or maybe you were having very physical symptoms like chest pains, sweating, difficulty breathing, stuff like that. So I'm just going to go over panic attack symptoms as well as anxiety symptoms, the difference between panic attacks and anxiety attacks, and then I'm also going to be going over my personal experience with both of these, because I have had many anxiety and many panic attacks in my life, so I just thought I would share this information with you guys, and maybe it will help you. So you guys may be wondering what the difference between a panic attack and an anxiety attack is, because honestly a lot of people just use those words interchangeably. They'll say I have an anxiety attack or I had a panic attack, and they think it means the same thing, but actually they're two different things. I guess they're kind of similar because they're both related to anxiety. So the DSM-5 actually does not define the term anxiety attack. It's nowhere really in there. I personally haven't checked this myself because I don't have one, but online it says that the DSM-5 actually, it doesn't have the term anxiety attack. So the term anxiety is actually just identified under anxiety disorders such as like a OCD or a post-traumatic stress disorder. So that's what their anxiety definition sort of is. It's just a name for anxiety, I guess, and the term anxiety attack isn't really in the DSM-5. So if you're not really sure what the DSM-5 is, the 5 is just like the revision of it, but the DSM is like the handbook that mental health professionals use to diagnose people and like stuff like that. I've never actually seen one or anything, so I don't know exactly what's in it, but it's pretty much like the standard for like how to diagnose people and stuff like that. So even though anxiety attack isn't technically a term in like the DSM professional world, but a lot of people use it to describe their experiences. I use it all the time to describe what I'm feeling. So I am going to be going over what I kind of classify and what other people classify as an anxiety attack versus what people classify as a panic attack. So I'm just gonna go over that with you guys. So I'm gonna go ahead and start with the panic attack and tell you some of the symptoms. I want to let you guys know that panic attack symptoms vary from person to person. So if I experience a panic attack a certain way, it doesn't mean that you are going to experience your panic attack this way. So I am going to be reading a list that they provide online for some of the symptoms, because if I just told you my symptoms that I experience, you guys might not experience the same things. So the DSM-5 apparently claims that if you experience at least 4 of these symptoms, it means that you are having a panic attack. So the way I would describe a panic attack is that you would get an intense sense of dread, like out of nowhere. It just like surrounds you all of a sudden. And you get a whole bunch of physical side effects as well as like mental thoughts and stuff. And it's a very scary experience, especially if you haven't had a panic attack before. It can be very scary. You don't know what's going on. You don't know what to do. So panic attacks normally only last for a very short time, normally about 15 to 20 minutes. Some can go longer, obviously, like 30 minutes or longer, but they're very short-lived, and they say that they reach their peak at about 10 minutes in time. So that's just what they say, but of course everyone could experience this a little differently. After you experience a panic attack, a lot of the times you're extremely tired, you're very upset, you're very stressed, you're very anxious, because your body has just gone through a ton of things. So I'm just gonna go ahead and read some of the symptoms that you could experience while having a panic attack. So like I said, this is just a list from online, so I'm going to be reading it off. Later I'll tell you like my personal experience with panic attacks and stuff. But this list says heart palpitations, pounding heart or accelerated heart rate, excessive sweating, trembling or shaking, sensation of shortness of breath, difficulty breathing, smothering, feeling of choking, chest pain or discomfort, nausea or abdominal distress, feeling dizzy, unsteady, lightheaded or faint, feeling of unreality or depersonalization, which just pretty much means that you feel like you're watching like a movie almost, like you're not real. Fear of losing control or going crazy, fear of dying, numbness, tingling sensation, chills, hot flashes, and something that I personally experienced but wasn't on this list was a need to escape. So as you can see, a lot of that list was mostly physical symptoms. A panic attack is extremely physical. It's very distressing when you experience it, especially if you haven't had one that severe or never had one before. All of a sudden your body is doing all these crazy things and you don't know what's going on. So pretty much what a panic attack is your mind is flicking the switch to go into fight or flight mode when it doesn't need to. It senses danger when there is no danger, and it's just like a faulty switch that comes on and off. So it will, when you are in flight and fight mode, also known as like panic or panic attack, pretty much your body releases a ton of adrenaline to try to survive pretty much. Some people say that it like shuts down your digestive system because it's trying to do everything it can to like keep you alive and keep you alert, and like all this crazy stuff is happening during a panic attack. It's a pretty crazy experience. Very not fun experience at all. I would never tell anyone that a panic attack is fun. I would never want anyone to have a panic attack. It is not a fun experience at all. So now I'm just gonna go ahead and talk about an anxiety attack. So there isn't really like a technical term for this, so there isn't like a list of symptoms. So pretty much the list of symptoms are just symptoms of having anxiety. So even if you're just having anxiety throughout the day, you might experience some of these. So I would say an anxiety attack is when you're having so much anxiety that you just can't focus on anything else. Literally your mind has just all these thoughts going constantly, and you can't even focus, concentrate. Sometimes I feel like I'm not even seeing what my eyes are seeing because I'm just like so focused on all this anxiety. So like the physical effects from anxiety would be muscle tension, disturbed sleep, difficulty concentrating, fatigue, restlessness, irritability, increased startle response, increased heart rate, shortness of breath, and dizziness. So as you can see, some of these symptoms for an anxiety attack actually mimic panic attacks. Like dizziness can be when you're having a panic attack, you can experience dizziness. You can experience shortness of breath while having a panic attack. Your heart rate can go up when having a panic attack. So as you can see, sometimes it might be hard to distinguish between an anxiety attack and a panic attack since their symptoms can be similar. I would say that if you're trying to decide if you've had a panic attack, most likely if you've had one, you know for sure you've had one. They're so severe and so like just draining physically. You just have so many physical symptoms that a lot of the times if you've had a panic attack, you know for sure, oh my goodness, that was a panic attack. A lot of the times the symptoms will be so overwhelming and so severe with a panic attack, unlike an anxiety attack. So like you would start hyperventilating with a panic attack, whereas with an anxiety attack that doesn't normally happen. Another way to tell is the length of time you are having this. Panic attacks, like I said, normally last 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. They're very short-lived. Although once you've finished having a panic attack, sometimes you can have a little lull and then go into another panic attack. So that can happen. But normally with anxiety attacks, there isn't as much as a time limit on them. They can last very long or very drawn out. So that's another way you can kind of distinguish between the two of them. So even though you might be experiencing physical effects from an anxiety attack, the worst of it is in your head. It's just the uncontrollable anxiety and the thoughts and the racing thoughts, the what if I made a wrong choice, or what if I can't escape, or what if people notice me freaking out. That's a lot of what goes through my head through an anxiety attack. Of course, it's very situation dependent. Depends on what situation I'm in, depending what I'm freaking out about. But a lot of the times it goes up to I can't escape, what if I can't escape, or what if people notice I'm freaking out. And another thing that is kind of distinguishable between a panic attack and an anxiety attack is that an anxiety attack will most likely not be visible to other people. Now this depends. Sometimes with anxiety attacks, I'll just start crying because it's so overwhelming. Obviously if you're crying, people are going to notice. But a lot of the times when I'm having an anxiety attack, I'm just staring off into space. And no one really notices. I'm not paying attention, unless someone were to trying to be engaging with me or something. They really wouldn't even notice I was having an anxiety attack. But if I was having a panic attack, most likely they're gonna know, because I'm going to be hyperventilating. I'm going to be very, not necessarily loud, but hyperventilating can be loud. And so a lot of the times it's very obvious to people you are having a panic attack. And one more thing about panic and anxiety attacks is that an anxiety attack can trigger a panic attack, at least with me. I mean, it's not a technical thing or anything, but with me, I find a lot of times I'll be having an anxiety attack before I go into a panic attack. So now I'm just going to go on to a couple little tips and tricks for when you're experiencing a panic attack or an anxiety attack. So these are just my personal little tips that I have found helped with me. People find that different things help them better. So if this doesn't help for you, I'm sorry, but this is just what I found helps for me personally. So my first tip is that if you're experiencing a lot of anxiety and a lot of panic, I would personally strongly recommend you go and see your doctor. You can just go right into your normal doctor at your doctor's office. Sometimes they try to prescribe you medication, which is fine, I guess. But I would strongly suggest asking them to refer you to a mental health professional, like a psychologist or a psychiatrist. So another tip I would say is allow yourself to leave a stressful or overwhelming situation. So I find, an example of this would be, I find church services very hard for me lately. It's only been within the past year or so. It's nothing to do with church or anything. It's just I think it's the crowds and the feeling I should be sitting there and I should stay the whole time. But I find that if I just allow myself to get up and leave, and no one has to know what you're doing. People get up and go to the bathroom all the time during church. So just get up and walk outside. If it's cold out, go to the bathroom or something. Just get out of that crowd situation. I find I like going outside better. Being in the fresh air is easier to breathe. Feels much more open, less constricting. but I have gone into bathrooms when I just want to be alone and I can't get outside. Another thing that I would say is talk to someone about it. I find that talking through my anxiety really helps me personally. When you're in a full-blown panic attack, talking is extremely difficult. So this isn't necessarily for when you're having the panic attack, but maybe before, like when you feel like you're getting really anxious or stressed, or afterwards if you want to talk about it. I find that that really helps me. But I think this is more for anxiety attacks, because anxiety, most of the time, it's easier to talk, but sometimes it really is hard to talk. Another thing is to distract yourself with an engaging activity or conversation. Sometimes this is not always possible to do, and obviously it's not really taking care of the underlying problem, so it's not necessarily like the best coping skill, I guess. But in the moment when you're having a panic attack, an anxiety attack, I find that distracting yourself can be very useful if you need to get through a situation. Let's say that you need to be somewhere for some reason, you have a responsibility, and you would rather not just leave and go home. I think it's really good to distract yourself until you can deal with the problem later. So I tell people to like tell me exactly what they did like that day, like describe everything in detail, so I can like listen to it, but most times it's through texting, because I don't really, normally I'm not with people I know that well, so I'll like text my friend and say, what did you do today, like tell me in detail, and they'll like text me back, so that's really helpful. Another thing that is helpful for me is for them to ask me questions unrelated to panic or anxiety. Just ask me like random questions and get me involved in something completely unrelated to anxiety. Another thing is to find a place to sit down or lay down. I find this very useful if I am getting very dizzy from anxiety, or if I'm just getting dizzy because I'm having a panic attack. Sitting down or laying down is very useful in that situation. And this next tip is something that my psychologist told me to do. I'm finding a little bit of success with it, but I'm still really bad at it at this point. But she told me to tell myself that it's okay to have a panic attack. So pretty much what that means is, I'm not saying that panic attacks are fun. I'm not saying panic attacks are a cool experience or like something that everyone should do. It's so cool, let's just have panic attacks right now. Like, that's not what I'm saying. When I say it's okay to have a panic attack right now, I'm saying to just allow yourself to just relax. Like, a lot of the time with panic disorder, you're so caught up in, I can't have a panic attack right now, I'm in public, or I can't have a panic attack right now, I'm about to go do this, or I can't have one right now, it's gonna be whatever. So if you tell yourself it's okay, you can have one now, it's fine. A lot of the times, sometimes you don't even work yourself all the way up to a panic attack, but other times it just relieves a lot of stress off of you. Things to think about when you say that is, there is nothing going on that is so important that can't wait 30 minutes. Like, you might say, like, I need to go do this now, but honestly, if you need to have a panic attack, you can wait 30 minutes to calm yourself down and wait for it to pass. It's not going to be the end of the world. Believe me, it's not. Another thing to remember is people will not judge you for having a panic attack. I know from experience, I hate having panic attacks in front of people. I'm comfortable with it in front of people I know, like my family, but otherwise I'm like, I don't want anyone to see me having one. But if you are in public and you have one, no one's going to be judging you. A lot of the times, people are going to feel bad and just want to help you. They're going to ask you what you need or what you want, and I know that's extremely overwhelming, especially for people who have social anxiety, but just know that no one is judging you. And the last tip is to remember you are not dying. No one in history has ever died from a panic attack, ever. It's impossible. Like, you can't die from having a panic attack. It's just a release of adrenaline. And I know it feels terrible and no one wants to have this panic attack, but you will not die from it. So that's very comforting to know when you're having a panic attack and you feel like you're dying, but just to know that you really will not die. So last and not least is you are going to be okay. Now, this is a very hard thing for me to say, or for me to admit to myself a lot of times, especially when I am having a lot of health problems going on. But honestly, you are going to be okay. Anxiety has never killed anyone. It's not going to kill you. It's horrible, 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 uncomfortable, terrible experience, but in reality, you're gonna be okay. You're gonna make it through it. And especially if you go and you try your best to go find help, you are going to be okay. So I hope that video helped you guys kind of figure out whether you just had a panic attack or whether you had an anxiety attack, or if you were just curious on what the difference was, or if you were just curious on what any of it was. So please leave a comment down below if you'd like to have conversations about panic and anxiety attacks. If you guys have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them. I'm not like a professional or anything, but I have had a lot of experience in this area, so or even if you just want to share what's going on right now with you, great. But if you don't feel like sharing anything, that's fine. But I do love reading your guys' comments. I try to read every one of them and answer them all, but sometimes I miss them on accident, so I'm really sorry if I didn't get to your comment. So don't forget to give this video a like and share it with your friends if you think this might be helpful to them. And don't forget to subscribe and keep an eye out for upcoming videos on this channel. If you are new to my channel, this channel's just, it kind of has a focus on mental health and neurological disorders and stuff like that, but I do also show personal things like room tours and fun little stuff like that. So I'd love it for you guys to subscribe and stick around. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys soon on a new video. Bye!